Hello, it's Neil at Recycle Bike. It's the Easter weekend and you might be planning on going out and about on your bike. You could be out on your own or you could be out with the family. Whatever you decide to do, you could run into something like this, the dreaded puncture, the flat tyre. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just showing you the process of dealing with a flat tyre when you're out and about. Different people will have different methods. There's just a few little things, a few little tips that might help you deal with this better, either now or in the future. First thing is though, if you are out and about, depending on where you are, you probably need to get yourself into a safe place. If you're in a nice open park, you're fine. If you've been on a busy road and you get a puncture, you just need to make sure you get well away from that road just before you start messing about with your bike. So once you've got the offending wheel out, the first thing to do is, if it's all out of air, you're fine. If it's only got a little bit of air in, you need to let the rest of the air out in order to get your tyre off. There's two types of valve on bikes. There's the car type valve, and there's this one, the high pressure valve, the slightly thinner one. If you've got the car type one, you just need to press in the little valve plunger inside that lets the rest of the air out. On the Presto ones like this, you just need to undo that little cap on the end and let the rest of the air out. There wasn't that much air left in that tyre. Hopefully, you have some way of mending that puncture. Otherwise, you're going to be calling a taxi or calling a lift home. But you really need to have some sort of first aid kit with you for your bike. And that should include some basic tools. You need a couple of tyre levers at least to get the tyre off. You need either a spare tube or patches to fix the puncture. You then need a pump to pump the tyre back up. So if you think about this, if you're out on your own, you may know what size tyres and tubes you've got, so you can carry a spare tube. If you're out with the family, you could be on all sorts of different size bikes. You could have 2 or 3 or even 3 or 4 different size tubes. It might be a bit difficult to carry all those tubes, so you need to be able to carry a puncture kit instead and fix the puncture while you're out. I normally carry something like this. It's quite small, quite compact, but it carries everything I need. For instance, it has a spare tube if I need it. Sometimes I carry 2. It has at least 2 tyre levers. 3 is ideal, but it fits in the kit better with just 2. There's also a set of patches and some glue as well. So, first thing you need to do, I also have a pump. First thing you need to do is get your tyre levers. And you need to get your tyre off. Tyre levers have a hook on the end, and it's literally just a case of putting the tyre lever into the tyre and levering it back. Tyre lever. One tyre lever, 2 tyre levers. You see the tyre starting to come off there. I can then, in this case, just run that tyre lever around and that tyre comes off quite easily. Sometimes you can do this with 1 tyre lever, sometimes you need 2, sometimes you need 3. It depends how tight the tyre is. Once you've got one side of the tyre off, like that, you can get your fingers in, and you can feel for it, and you can get the tube. Pull the tube all the way out to the valve, then just pull the tube free from the wheel. Now something will have caused the puncture. You could have something in your tyre. The most popular culprits for punctures are thorns and bits of glass. So both of those are quite sharp, so you need to be careful with this next bit. You need to get your tyre off the wheel. It's usually just a case of pulling it off. put your wheel to one side. And what I would do is, usually there's some sort of reference point on the side of the tyre. In this case, just the name of the tyre, the brand of the tyre. And use that as a reference point so you know when you've been all the way around the tyre. And just check the tread as you go around. Carefully your fingers in case there's something sharp in there. But just check the exterior of the tread and see if you can see something in there. If there's a thorn or a bit of glass, you might see something sticking out, or you might see something glinting with your eye. But just go all the way around the tyre as carefully as you can until you get back to that reference point. Now I couldn't see anything in the outside of the tyre there, so I'm going to have a quick look on the inside of the tyre. And again, just use the reference point and look all the way through the inside of the tyre. If you see something, try and pull it out. It's great if in that little kit you've got something like a set of tweezers or some sort of pick like that. So if you see something in the tyre, you can pick it out, or use tweezers and pull it out. But you've got to be pretty confident that there's nothing left in your tyre, because if there's something left in there, you fix your puncture, you put your tyre back on, you get a few yards down the road, then your tyre will go down again. So always spend a little bit of time checking your tyre. There's nothing in that tyre, so I must have rolled over something. It's punctured, and the thing that's punctured my tyre is still on the ground. So that tyre's good to go back on the wheel. So I'll just quickly pop that back on. Right, your tube. Tube's flat. If you've got a spare tube, don't bother fixing this at the side of the road. Just put that one in, fix that when you get home. In this case, I'm going to check to see where the puncture is in this and talk you through how to fix the puncture. The first thing you need to do is find where the puncture is. So you don't just look for a hole. The best way to find where the puncture is to pump it up. So put the valve into the pump, put some air in, and you should hopefully, as you go around, be able to hear the hiss of where that air is coming out. Once you find it, if you have anything with you to mark it, mark where the hole is. Sometimes puncture kits come with a little bit of crayon, put a little bit of crayon mark. If you happen to have a pen, if you're marking off your miles for some sort of Easter challenge, you never know, put a bit of biro on there. Just something that's going to help you find where that hole is. Once you've got your hole identified and marked, just let the air out again, if it hasn't already come out. But you've got that puncture marked. Puncture kits come in two types. You get this type, which has patches and glue, or you get the type that are just self-adhesive. They're the best ones to have, because then you don't have to bother with the glue. I don't have one of those at the minute. So my puncture kit, as well as various other bits and pieces like chain links, which is a totally different video, just put them to one side. My puncture kit has glue, some sandpaper or emery cloth, whatever people want to call it, and the all-important patches. Patches of various sizes, depending on how big the hole is. Hopefully, you're looking for the smallest patch for the smallest hole. Right, so you have your puncture marked, but tubes are very slippy. So to make the glue stick and to make the patch stick, you need to use your emery cloth and you need to rub the surface of your tube. That just takes the glossiness off the tube and it gives the glue and the patch a good key to stick to. So, tube now sorted. It's quite dull. It's a good base for the glue to stick to. The glue. Put a small dab of glue on the tube and spread it around with your finger. You want to spread that around to basically be the approximate size of the patch that you're putting on. A little bit bigger than the patch you're putting on. Once you've got the glue on, it's not a race to get the patch on. You need to let that glue go from soft and gloopy to tacky. And that might take a couple of minutes, but your patch won't stick to soft gloopy glue. It's got to be sticky. It's got to be, you put your finger on and you can feel your finger sticking to the glue. So you just give that a couple of minutes while you're getting your thoughts together and thinking about the rest of the ride you're going to have on your newly mended tube. Once that's gone tacky, you get your patch. You peel the backing off the patch. Sometimes that can be tricky. This one has thankfully come off no bother at all. Try and keep your fingers off the patch. And then you just need to apply the back of that patch to the tacky glue. Stick it on and hold it in place with your thumb, pressing firmly. And because you let the glue go tacky, that has a much better chance of sticking. Once you've kept that pressed on there for a little while, until you've lost the use of your thumb because your thumb's been pressing so tight, you should now just be able to take your thumb off and that patch should be stuck to your tube. Your puncture is now repaired. Fingers crossed. You now need to get your repaired tube back into your wheel. The easiest way to do that is just to put a little bit of air in your tube, because you see at the minute it's quite flat, it's quite unmanageable. It doesn't look like it's round, like it's meant to fit into a tyre. So back on with your pump. Just put a little bit of air in, just so you sort of form the roundness of the tube. There you go, that's ready to go back into the tyre. Pick your wheel and tyre back up. Oh, I'm just caught there. Find where your valve hole is, because the first part of the tube that goes back in. Got your valve hole, pull the tyre back and put the valve in. And then just start feeding that tube into the tyre. And it's really tricky doing this back to front in front of the camera. And it's even trickier and harder doing this at the side of the road, when all you want to do is get home or continue the ride. No one likes punctures. So I'm just going to pop that tube in. Just make sure it's in all the way around. Sadly, the more times you do that, the better you get at it. But the only way to get practice at this is to either have lots of punctures or spend time at home practicing getting tyres on and off. So I've got the tube in, but I still just need to get this side of the tyre back on. So again, start at the valve. I'll just start pushing the tyre onto the wheel. So as you can see there, I've got this part of the tyre in, and I'm slowly working around, just pushing this part of the tyre back over the rim of the wheel. And all I'm doing is using my thumbs, my double jointed thumbs, both hands. You don't use tie levers for this, so you have to use your thumbs. If you use tie levers, excuse me, you'll cause more punctures. Believe me, you will. So only use your hands and your thumbs for this bit. But you're just basically pushing and rolling that tyre back over the rim. You'll eventually get to a point close to the end where it gets very tight. This bit across here becomes very tight. You just have to persevere with your thumbs. Don't be tempted to use the tie lever to put that on. Just push and roll over and that tyre is now on. Still flat because we've got no wear in it. So that's it. Get your pump. Now these pumps that you carry with you, they're really just emergency pumps because they are quite short, and it could take quite a bit of air, a bit of time to get the air back into your tyre. However, they are just emergency pumps to be used in an emergency. You should be able to get, doesn't sound right, you should be able to get enough air into your tyre, there you go, to get you home. Once you're home, you can spend all the time in the world pumping your tyre up, or you can just get a bigger pump and do it a lot more quickly. So there you go, that's going up. Pull that off. And in this case, I'll just redo the end of that valve. There you go, I now have air back in my wheel. Pop that back in your bike and continue your ride. When you get home, you can either trust that your puncture was a good fix and leave it, or you can do, for peace of mind, you might want to just take that punctured but repaired tube out, fit a new tube, and then you can keep that other tube as a backup, a spare tube, which you can take out with you. But that's it. It's not too difficult. It's much more difficult when you're out and about. You might have the kids with you and you just want to get on your way. But take your time. Have a couple of tools with you. Just to recap, you need, I've lost them now, at least 2 tie levers. You need a pump, and you need a puncture kit, either the type with glue or the self-sticky patches. They're much better, but if you can't get those, you can still use glue. Rough up the tube, put the glue on, wait for it to go tacky, stick your patch on, keep it on there, and you're good to go. Tube back into the tyre, tyre and wheel back into the bike, on you go. So I hope that's been helpful. Fingers crossed, touch wood, no one gets any punctures at the weekend. But if you do, I hope you get them sorted. Thank you. See you later. Bye.